Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is part 2 video on ReactJS CRUD example. Now we mainly focus on read operation. In create, read, update, delete, these makes CRUD operation, right? In that first let's do read operation. Read operation means consume the API, get API, and the successful response must be rendered on our React component on our UI page. Okay, and we know we set up fake JSON, right? JSON server in our local machine. So this is my fake response with the fruits, and here is our get endpoint, right? So if I call, I am going to receive this response. Okay, so I am going to use this endpoint. So how did I know what is get endpoint means? In the JSON server GitHub documentation, you can see either with the plural routes or the singular routes. Okay, slash name of your route means it will fetches all the records from the JSON server. Same way, slash name of your route slash ID. It fetches single record from the JSON server. For save, slash, simple slash, and we have to post the payload. And for put, slash with the ID and the payload. Like that, from here we can made or create our endpoints. Okay, now this is my get endpoint. Now I have to consume it from my React component. Okay, so for that, let's create a new React component. Okay, so we have already created a component folders, right? Inside of it, shared folders. Okay, so I am not going to create my new component here because the component now I am creating will be like a page. Okay, and the folder here components you are seeing right here, we are going to create components like small shared or small components which do not require routing. I'm going to create here, but the component I'm going to create is like an entire page. Okay, so I'm going to create a new folder like pages. Okay, in that let's add my new component like all fruits .js. So in this component, I am going to invoke the API call and I am going to display the content. Okay. This separation and folder structure is not mandatory. It is our convention. How better we can define the folder structure in our project. Okay. Now let's define the component. We know component is a simple JavaScript function, React component, and its name should start with capital case letter. Okay. And it should return JSX, nothing but a tags. Here I am returning the imaginary tags and export default our all fruits we should export. Okay. Now in this component we have to invoke the API call, right? For invoking API call, there are JavaScript methods for invoking the API call. Instead of using the JavaScript methods, okay, there is external library which is recommended by everyone to consume the API call, that is Axios. Okay, for that library helps for invoking the HTTP request calls. Okay, first let's install that Axios in our project. Okay, search like Axios npm and click on the link, and here you can copy the command. Okay, npm I stands for installation Axios. Okay, now open the terminal, paste the command and install the package. Okay, package successfully installed. Now we have to call the API call, right? Now I want to call the API call once this function is or component is rendered. So what I will do, I will directly create Axios call here. Okay, so Axios dot get. Okay, and here we have to pass our endpoint. So we know our API endpoint, right? Copy that and paste it over here, and then listen for the response. Okay, so here I am going to get the response. Okay, so this res response, from this response we will get data. So this data is nothing but our array of whatever the response. Either it will be array or object based on the API response. Here is my array of fruits. Okay, and we have to assign it to the variable, right? So what we think, we can create a constant. I will name like all fruits variable name, and initially empty array. Once the data comes, we want to assign. This is the first thought we will have in our mind, right? And this variable can be used to bind the data, but we cannot use constant here. Why? Because its initial value empty, right? So that gets rendered when our API call returns the response and assign it to the variable. It HTML will not refresh because it is a constant variable. Once this React component function executes, normally on change of normal variables, it won't refresh the data. So you cannot use constants like this. So then what we have to do? We can use some of the React hook techniques. Okay. In that, for storing the data, we will have a method like use state. We have to use state. Okay. So use state. Okay. And to this use state, we have to pass initial value. Initially, I want to have the array, right? All fruits. So I have to pass the array, and it should be assigned to variable like a array. Okay. What is that array means? Constant all fruits. So to this first variable in this array, will take this value. Okay, whatever initial value or whatever the state value will assign to this property. Okay, this is a normal variable, comma, next set all fruits. These names are our own names. Okay, so this set all fruits is a function. It is not a variable. So what is this function means? If you want to change the any value of the state, we have to use this function to update the state. So once the value updated from the state, that value will be stored into this variable. Okay, so the set function is indirectly updates the value in the all fruit. Okay, now how this use state can render the data means, whenever the data inside of this all fruits or any variable of the use state changes, the entire function refreshed means re-executes, right? It gets re-executes. So now here I cannot assign all fruits directly. What I can do, I have to use the set all fruits variable. Set all fruits, and it is a function, and you can directly pass the value. So response dot data. Okay. One way is calling like this. Another way is we can input the arrow function. Mostly recommend to most of the cases, recommend to use the arrow function because there are drastic updations in the state at that time. To get the most relevant data and exact data, it is always good to use the arrow function. So this arrow function will contain generally previous state. Previous state means what is the initial state? Initial state is the previous state, right? So what is the initial state? Empty array. So previous state will be the empty array. Means we can use this to update and generate the new state. Okay. So what I will return new state as response data. Okay. Either you can directly pass this to the set all fruits, or you can create a arrow function as the input parameter like this. Okay. Now there is a one more drawback here. What I have told, whenever all all fruits variable value changes, this entire function get refreshed, right? Re-execute means Axios will be executed. That means it's going to be infinite loop because first time when Axios call happens, the value of all fruits will be changing using the set values, right? So what it will do, for rendering the data, it again re-execute the all functions. But Axios is within the global scope of this all fruits, means it again re-executes. So we cannot call a API call directly in the component. Okay. So what I can use for so what I can do for that, I can use another React hook like use effect. Okay. So use effects contains two parameters. One is arrow function, the first parameter, and another thing is array. Okay. So in this arrow function, we can paste our code as just call. Okay. So how this as will work means use effect will work means it will execute this arrow function whenever there is a change in the variable, means I can pass all fruits like this. Okay. Whenever the use state variables changes, this use effect arrow function re-executes. For suppose if this arrow is empty, means it will execute only one time. The arrow function inside of the use effects execute only one time, that too when the component is rendered. My case is also same, right? This API call must execute only once. So I will not pass any variable. So that is how use effect works. In general, if you want to execute a logic that depends upon the any use state variable, that state variable must be passed here. So whenever that passed state variable executes, this entire use effects will get executes. And one more thing, if you don't give this empty array and give like this, it is always equal to this line of code. Means if you don't provide the empty array, it always executes. Whenever any state variable changes, it always executes. Okay. So if you want to execute this code only once, you must pass the empty array. So that is my logic. So now if the API call is successful, I have all fruits. Now using this variable, I can bind the data into my HTML. And for the display purpose, each item I want to display it on the React Bootstrap card. So let's go to the React Bootstrap website. Click here and go to components. And here in the components, you have cards. So here I want a design. Here you will find number of options. In that I am going to select the design. I want to this design cards, side by side cards. Okay. So what I will do, I'm going to copy this. Okay. And I'm going to paste it here. So here what is happening? One row component, bootstrap, React Bootstrap component, column component, and card component we are using. Okay. And there are namespaces we have to import. And paste it on the top of our function. Okay. We have imported namespaces as well. Okay. Now here there is a example array. Okay. For looping. So here what I can do, I can remove this. And where is my array of response I am storing? Inside of the all fruits variable. So I can use that variable here. Okay. All fruits variable. So map is a normal JavaScript function, just it will iterate the item. Okay, here I will get directly item. Okay. Now on the column we have to define a HTML attribute like key, and to that key we have to give the unique value. Okay, why we have to give means it is a normal React library convention when we are iterating the collection of items, and those items should be differentiated by this key value. Okay, if you don't give, it will give just a compiler exception. So we have to make sure to give it. Okay. So far so good. Just I am assigning my in the my response ID will be unique, right? So I am assigning the ID as a key. If there is another property unique, you can pass that as well. Okay, there is no mandatory to give the ID value. If you don't have the ID value, any unique property, then you can use the index value. Okay, that also fine. Since I have ID value, I am not care about any index value of my loop. Okay, now here. So here you can see SRC. I am having image URL property right in my response. So I want to render it here. For that, just remove everything with double quotes. We know right how to render the dynamic data in React.js. For that, we have to open the flower braces and pass it. So it should come from item dot, okay, item dot image URL. Okay. And here title, I want to render the name of my item. So item dot name. Okay. Make sure property names are matching with our response. Okay. And here cart, what I can do, I have quantity. So quantity in kg units I want to display. Okay. Open braces item dot quantity. Okay. And copy it again. Hard text. Add it here. Let's add cost. Okay. And the cost. So like this we can render the data. So I am good because I am done with API call and I am done with the rendering the data. So now I want to render my component. Where my component I have to render? In general in React.js, app component is our root component, right? So go to app component. Here instead of this welcome message, what I will do? I can render my component. So what will happen in real time? You go to layout. Here in this place, our page content gets rendered. So that is the idea. Navbar and the page content. So layout is like a our page layout, master template. Okay. So in the app layout, I can add my all fruits component. So name gets automatically imported. I think if everything is good, I am able to see my response data displaying on my React component. Okay, let's go to our website and make sure to run both our React.js application by running the command npm start and our node server, sorry, JSON server. If you have any doubts to how to run those commands, go to package.json. Okay, in the scripts you can find. So this is the command to start our application. So in the terminal you have to give npm space start. Similarly, for JSON server, you have to give npm space run. Okay. For start only, it is a optional. If you want to give, you can give like npm space run space start. Okay. Here JSON run to run npm space run space JSON server. Like that you have to start. Now if I go to my Angular application, see, I am able to see the content, right? But those boxes are very big, right? So let me change a little bit HTML. See, for medium screens, here I have specified two, means two columns I have to show. I will make it like three. And if you see excess means extra small, like mobile, show one column. That is good. Okay, and I want a gap between them like three. Okay, and let me add a height for also. To add height, I can use style property and to that style open brackets, and in that we have to pass our style object. Okay, height 50. Here why I am giving two brackets means one is normal. Any expression if you want to render single bracket. So in this expression I am passing an object, my styles object like height, width, you can pass. Okay. Now let's check our output. Okay. Images are shrink but little better. And if you inspect element and go to network calls and if you refresh page again, now you can see the API call, my fruits API call, which is a get call and it is showing status 200 means okay. And in the preview tab, you can see the response. These are the two items coming from my JSON server, my dummy data response, and those are rendering on my React component. Okay. So that's about the read operation. Next, we are going to focus on create operation. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like my video, do support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.